From the Fans Talk Podcast family at fanstalkpodcast.com, this is episode 40 of Fans Talk TNA. This week we're going to cover the July 23rd, 2015 episode of Impact Wrestling on Destination America, as well as the rest of the news and notes that happened this week in TNA. My name is Garvin, and with us, as always, is Nick. Say hello, Nick.
Howdy, Garvin.
Now, if you're new to the conversation, what we're going to do is pretty much recap and react to what happened this week in TNA, talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and just give you our honest reaction. I think this is a little bit different viewpoint than you normally see on the internet when it comes to TNA, just because we're not reading off the same bullet points that seemingly everyone else is. We're actually watching the show. There are actually things that we do like, so we'll talk about it. So, let's just jump right into it, dude. What happened this week on Impact Wrestling? I guess we can start with what's going on in the low and mid card. We had Bram versus Magnus this week. We had a little bit of story progression with James Storm and the Revolution. We had the story progression of Eli Drake and Drew McIntyre. Also, Rockstar Spud versus EY. What happened this week as far as that low and mid card that you liked?
I really enjoyed Eli Drake's promo. He's absolutely a great talker, one of the better ones in TNA right now, and he's got legitimate beef with Galloway. Ever since the Rising began, it's been Galloway front and center, and nobody else really got a chance to shine.
Right.
So, yeah, Drake may have had ulterior motives going into this, but you know, he's got a legitimate beef, and I think that's where the best heel work comes from, where it's not just mustache-twirling villain doing bad things just because he can. It's he's got a grievance with Galloway, and he took his opportunity to stab Galloway in the back, and I love it.
Yeah, you know, it's definitely that perfect heel attitude, because it's someone that can, I mean, as far as Eli goes, Eli spelled it out exactly what his motivations were, and it was something that you could get behind. Anyone could get behind. Anyone could understand why he was frustrated. So I like that, because I think it really tells a better story. It's not just a bad guy being a bad guy because that's how it's written. It's a bad guy with real motivations, relatable feelings, and, you know, putting that all out there. So I definitely like this direction. You know, it's not Eli Drake, trying to take Drew down from the very beginning. It was a growing frustration. So I think that was pretty cool that they did it that way. What else? Anything else in that low mid card that you liked?
I did enjoy the chain match. I am starting to get tired of Rockstar Spud just getting beat up and, you know, really, really being heavy-handed with the whole underdog angle. I want to see Spud, you know, acknowledge the fact that he is smaller than everybody else, to start using that to his advantage, use his speed and agility more, instead of just taking a licking and keep on ticking. We got a little bit of that against EY, but not nearly enough. EY, on the other hand, he was great. I still love just about everything he's doing right now. The pile driver on the chain was inspired. I think some other stuff that he did with the chain was good. Just give that guy anything to work with, and he can make it pretty great. I'm enjoying that right now.
Yeah, I'm generally in agreement with you as far as EY goes. And realistically, Rockstar Spud. I want to see Rockstar Spud look legit in some fashion, and they fail to really do that. It is him constantly being the underdog, and sure, that is playing into his size, but there's got to be a reason why they have a guy like Rockstar Spud on the roster. It can't just be so that he can lose and make people look better. You know, there's like, just for storyline purposes, for realistic purposes, you wouldn't just have this a jobber like this on your roster, realistically. So I think they need to move on from this and do something better with him. My only complaint, and I'll be transparent, I did not watch last week's Impact in full, so I'm kind of lost on where this match, why this match was happening. It just seemed like it just happened, and it's a chain match.
yeah, that seems to be the case with really every match that happened. Bully Ray
Yeah.
decided that we need to mix things up, and so he just booked matches out of nowhere. Bram versus Magnus, obviously there's a lot of history there. And I think
Well, sure, but they moved on from that.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, I think it was just to take the eye off of Magnus' Storm a little bit, give them a little breathing room, not necessarily have to have them fighting in order to keep that feud going. And Bram and Magnus do have chemistry, and there's history, so there's a reason they'd want to beat the shit out of each other in a street fight. So
Sure,
I
but
get the reason that was booked that way.
Yeah. To me, though, it's because they did progress the James Storm versus Magnus story after this match. So, yes, they didn't need a match between Storm and Magnus or any like real altercation. But it's like it was a street fight. It was a hardcore style match. It just seemed like an extra stipulation that was added onto this that didn't really fit. Like Magnus has moved on from Bram. Bram is doing other things. So to merge these two guys together, in what is really a filler match, it just seemed kind of odd. Just odd booking.
Yeah. Yeah, really, this episode was kind of a filler episode. We're getting a lot of build for future payoffs. Like, the number one contenders match that we had, the Magnus match that we had, which set up a big moment for James Storm. Things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. Yeah, it did feel kind of fillery all around. I was surprised that we didn't see Bully Ray as much as we had the week before. I really thought that they would push that authority character a bit more on TV just because that's something that we've been wanting, but he seemed rather absent other than, saying that these matches were going to happen, or at least that they were pinning the booking of these matches to Bully Ray. But let's quickly talk about the James Storm Revolution versus Magnus and Mickie James. We got more progression of that, obviously, after the Magnus versus Bram match. And then we also got the announcement of who is going to be James Storm's partner. So basically, it's going to be Mickie James and Magnus versus James Storm and Serena Deeb. Are you okay with that pick?
I'm very okay, especially since I didn't see that coming at all. I was thinking of and throwing out names like Jackie Moore, Tara, people that have had connections with Mickie James, both in TNA and outside of it. So yeah, it didn't strike me as obvious at first, but when you think about it, it does make a lot of sense because those two are really close friends outside of the ring, and they do have something of a rivalry. Some of the knockouts, knockdowns, one night only shows kind of hinted that when Mickie James would face off with Serena, and the commentary team would talk about how heated a rivalry those two have had. Personally, I don't see how they could have made a better decision if you're gonna go for somebody that knows Mickie James better than Magnus knows her, as well as Mickie James knows herself. I think TNA really hit the nail on the head with this one.
I probably am in the minority here, but I do not remember Serena in her last run in TNA. Was she wasn't the one that was attached to Awesome Kong, was she?
No, I don't believe she's really had a TNA run.
So this isn't something that would have, like, this isn't a story that would have been told on TNA TV. This is a story that hipster marks like yourself would understand.
They're drawing from things outside of TNA, yeah.
I gotcha. All right. So with your explanation, this kind of makes sense, but from my standpoint, again, I'm familiar with the name, but I don't recall ever really seeing her before. I don't recall like where. I don't know.
You would have seen her during CM Punk's Straight Edge Society deal. She was there.
Oh,
Yeah.
she was the one that got her head shaved.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
And like Pope alluded to when Serena was coming out, these two really built their relationship when they were in OVW together, back when OVW was WWE's
Sure.
developmental. So
Sure.
yeah, they go way back.
Okay. Yeah. Again, with that explanation, I'm okay with it. But from a a fan standpoint that is looking at TNA as like this isolated thing, it does kind of seem odd that they would go this route. But I'm okay with it. I hope this means that Serena has a place in TNA, has a place in the Revolution after this match. Because we've been wanting, a female character in the Revolution. We've been wanting some progress in the Revolution. So I think this could lead to that if done properly. We'll see. We'll see what they do. All right. So that was basically the low and mid card. X Division, we really didn't get any progress as far as the title goes, but we were hyped on the idea that Tigre Uno was going to basically confront Donald Trump as far as his comments on Mexicans during his presidential run campaign so far. What did you think about this whole thing?
First of all, I highly doubt Donald Trump is going to show up on Impact Wrestling.
No.
So I kind of groaned a little bit when Josh Matthews extended the challenge to Donald Trump. I was like, what do you have to say to that, Trump? But as far as the video package went, I think this went some ways towards building and establishing a character for Tigre Uno. Because prior to his X Division title run, he's just a luchador that used to work at AAA, and that's it. He's really good in the ring, but we don't know anything else about him except he looks vaguely cat-like. Now we're getting a character. Now we're getting him talking. It's in Spanish, but, there's subtitles, so we can get the gist of it. Yeah. And, yeah, he's becoming more relatable. Somebody that we can get behind more than with flippy shit. So I'm digging that aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely getting, like, the emotional side of him, that almost real life side of him as far as that goes. I guess what I was expecting when they were hyping this up, I was expecting him to be in ring, angry, talking on the mic, doing like an actual promo. Because we haven't seen him do anything like that in TNA thus far. So that's kind of what I was expecting. So when it was just a video package of him in Tijuana, it kind of left me unimpressed. I still don't I'm not into his character anymore. Yes, I am seeing a different side of him. Yes, they are building that character, but it seems rather soft, It seems like this is a likable guy, and you don't necessarily want your champion to be likable per se, but more or less you want him to be strong and standing up for what he believes in. And I don't think this video did him enough justice.
Yeah, I just don't think there's a lot you can do when you're trying to throw in pop culture references like this, especially with somebody so controversial as Trump is. I don't think we would have really enjoyed him standing in the ring and being angry about what Trump said, because the message that Tigre wants to send about himself and the Mexican people he represents is that they're hardworking. They're no different from you guys. When we come to the States, we come here to do work. And that's essentially what he's done. For him to be angry and to take what Josh Matthews said and make it more confrontational, more like a challenge, more like a declaration of, I'm going to whip your ass if you walk into this building, I think that would have backfired on TNA.
And I don't disagree with that. I don't know. It just seemed like that the way that they hyped it was that he was going to speak out against Donald Trump, and it wasn't necessarily like that. He was speaking up for people from Tijuana.
Yeah.
Not necessarily all of Mexico, but definitely most of Tijuana.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just didn't have that impact I think I was expecting. So
sure.
All right. Well, outside of that, we also had some development as far as the knockouts go. Taryn Terrell obviously is very upset that she's no longer the champion. She wants that title. She calls out Gail Kim. She calls out Brooke, and basically like puts herself in the 6 sides of steel. I'm not sure how you felt about this segment, but basically, as it happened, you had Brooke basically, playing that generic babyface against Taryn Terrell. You had Gail Kim, lights out, lights back on, the cage doors closed. Taryn is now outside of the ring, and she destroys the dollhouse. I don't know. It just seems like there's no balance with the knockouts. It's either the dollhouse are helping Taryn in some way, even if it's remotely small, or they're getting destroyed. They're doing a very bad job, I feel, at building this as a credible partnership, as a credible tag team, as far as, Marty Bell and Jade. And they did some similar stuff when it comes to the Menagerie, when it comes to other groups. BDC also fell into this role every once in a while, as far as, Rockstar Spud getting over on Low Key and Kenny King at the same time. I don't know. There's just no real balance. It just feels like they're either strong or they're really, really weak.
Yeah, when you put it in terms like that, TNA hasn't done factions very well over the last year or so. The Revolution has gone nowhere. The BDC, they've done some good things, but like you said, Rockstar Spud got over on 2 of them without really making it look like a real struggle. The Menagerie went absolutely nowhere. The Dollhouse and the Rising I put in the same boat because it's centered around a charismatic figure that's obviously the center of attention, and the others are just there. They might contribute with a distraction every once in a while, but other than that, there's nothing going on. And that's a criminal waste of talent. With the Rising, Mike is a very competent worker. Eli Drake, he's shown us more and more why he deserves to be there. With the Dollhouse, Marty Bell's a good wrestler, but Jade is absolutely phenomenal. She is easily the equal of a Gail Kim as far as wrestling ability goes, and to not highlight that when you desperately need that in your Knockouts division, I don't know what TNA is doing there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I don't know. I see so much potential when it comes to Marty Bell and Jade, and they are so far below that. They're so far below that line that I was expecting them to reach. So it's just very disappointing for sure. All right. So in this week's main event, we had Bobby Roode versus Matt Hardy in a tables match to determine the number 1 contenders for the World's Championship. So, EC3. The winner will face EC3. Matt Hardy won that match. Overall, are you happy that Matt Hardy won?
In a sense, yes. And that sense being so that we can go ahead and get that out of the way. I don't put any stock in the idea that Matt Hardy will ever be world champion. I think he presents a credible opponent as far as what he's done in the business, who he has beaten, just as a guy for EC3 to go over and further legitimize himself. I really would like the idea of Bobby Roode facing EC3 for the title, because I think that'd be money, but you'd have to turn him face first, and since he's still identifying as a dirty heel, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So, yeah, this wraps up some loose ends. It puts a close on that little chapter, and yeah, overall it works. I think we'll get a good match out of it.
Yeah, generally speaking, I would normally be against Matt Hardy being pushed this far, this high, this fast. I generally am in the camp of Bobby Roode needs to be in the main event picture at all times.
Yeah.
But at the same time, EC3 just won the title. I don't want him to face off against legitimate guys like Bobby Roode, like Austin Aries yet. I want to see him go over guys that I feel are lower quality just to make this go a bit longer, because if it's Bobby Roode versus EC3, I'm really torn on who I'm backing. You know, but when it's EC3 versus Matt Hardy, EC3 all the way.
Yep, for sure.
So yeah, in that context, I'm okay with the Matt Hardy win, but definitely, I would never have him in this title picture. But if it's gonna make EC3's reign a bit longer, I'm okay with it. All right, so that was pretty much it from this week. Did I miss anything? Does that sound pretty much all you remember?
Jeff Jarrett's getting inducted in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Oh, so right. We opened up. Our opening segment was the announcement that Jeff Jarrett is in the Hall of Fame. So we'll just move this into the news and notes bit. You know, this is pretty much the guy that we expected to be the number one entry into the Hall of Fame. It's took a few years, but yeah, Jeff Jarrett in the Hall of Fame. I have absolutely no argument with that. I really have nothing else to say. How about you?
No, this absolutely does make sense. It's who I was expecting, especially since he came back. He became King of the Mountain champion. So yeah, kind of a no-brainer. Maybe this shouldn't have happened earlier, but, you know, the only other three entries in there are Sting, Kurt Angle, and the Dudleys, so there's arguments to be made for each of them going in ahead. So, but yeah, no-brainer.
Yeah, I'm definitely okay with it. Much deserved, and no better time than now. The other bit of news that dropped this week was the fact that Bound for Glory is going to be taking place in Hardy Country. What arena?
The Cabarrus Arena. They're saying Charlotte, North Carolina, but Cabarrus Arena is in Concord, my hometown.
Yeah. So oh, nice. You should get tickets.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of doing. I'm not terribly stoked about the venue choice because the Cabarrus Arena is kind of a piece of shit. But, yeah,
Is it a large arena?
It's sizable.
Like 10,000, 7,000?
You know what? I'm not really sure what the capacity is. I think it could hold at least 5,000.
Okay.
The layout's not great, but, you know, they can have a lot of floor seating for this one, so.
Sure. Well, it takes place on October 4th, so yeah, definitely. If tickets go on sale and you want to go, I might schedule a vacation around then.
Baller.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, cool. All right. So if you enjoyed this episode and you want to hear more, you can find us over at fanstalktna.com. If you really like this episode, please, but by all means, give us a few dollars. That's all we're asking. Head on over to patreon.com/fanstalk. That's a way for you guys to subscribe to some extra content, early access to content just like this. And yeah, it all goes to help us fully fund all the series that we do. So Fans Talk Pro Wrestling, Fans Talk TNA, Fans Talk Lucha, as well as some upcoming series that we're currently working on. So, definitely, if you really enjoy what we're doing, please subscribe to patreon.com/fanstalk. All right, Nick, let's go into win fail. What was your win of the week?
I'm gonna give my win to Eli Drake in his promo. It's simple, it's understandable, it makes sense, and you can't ask for more than that.
Completely agree. That's also my win. What about fails? What's your fail of the week?
I'm gonna give it to the Hall of Fame video package they gave to Jarrett, namely the angle bits. Yeah, those two had a lot of great matches, and they had a great feud, but then that kind of crossed over into real world stuff when Jeff married his ex-wife. And basically, there have been a lot of moments where that's kind of been rubbed in Angle's face, and it's kind of shitty. So, I think they played on that way too hard, just showing Angle's kids and his ex-wife and all the moments where Jarrett's gotten over on Angle, and then you go into the rumor where Angle supposedly didn't know about Jarrett coming and being booked for the King of the Mountain match. So,
right.
Yeah, it's just not a great situation right there.
Yeah. My fail of the week is just going to go to the how the dollhouse is being handled right now. I think I was against how they were doing things from the beginning as far as Terran and the dollhouse goes, but it was still something different that we hadn't seen before, so I was willing to give it a chance. But now that they've made Jade and Marty Bell pretty much worthless, it's hard to be interested in what they're doing with the title.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, I think that's pretty much it. Do you have any final thoughts before we head out for the week?
Nope, that does it for me.
Okay, cool. And that's all the time that we have for this edition of Fans Talk TNA, but the conversation does not have to stop here. Join us over on YouTube and leave your comments. We definitely want to hear what you have to say. Also, want to hear what you have to say about the Jeff Jarrett Hall of Fame announcement. Are you for it? Are you against it? Do you think it's a good move? You can also send those comments over on Facebook, Google+, or Twitter. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can find all those links over on fanstalktna.com as well as the full archive. And we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.